People with strong emotions know this feeling all too well. Every now and then they just can't help but want to give other people some emotional significance. To put it simply, it's like wanting to give every lady in this world a home. But just as I was going to tell my online chat buddy in person, I observed a lot of comments with bullets coming out of nowhere. One remark read, "Male supporting character, don't waste your time. She is avoiding you now. She figured out she was talking to the wrong person and now she almost wishes she hadn't." The male supporting character does a lot of damage. All because he used an avatar that was very similar to the male leads. Willow wouldn't have gotten confused otherwise. Another comment said, "The female lead is also disgusted by him. And our male lead just became friends with the female lead yesterday. How sad." I was so shocked that I couldn't move. I ran into Willow. She looked aside right away when she noticed me, and didn't look back at me at all. So the next second, I moved past her and gave the letter to her flatmate right away. I don't simply have one person to communicate with online. The flirty voice messages at night, I send them to numerous individuals at once. Chapter 1. When I saw those bullet comments, I was a little surprised. Holding flowers outside the sports field, he gazed at the onslaught of comments continuously scrolling, and gradually started to fit things together. According to these comments, he was just a cannon fodder supporting character in a nice novel. And my internet chat companion Willow was the female lead. Looking down at the love letter in my hand, I finally realized. No surprise, in recent days her replies had been slower and colder. It turned out that she had mistook me for the male lead Makoto from the beginning. That's why she added me on. We chatted with me and gradually built feelings during those good morning and good night exchanges. Now that she understood the reality, she was avoiding me. She saw me as the hindrance to her connection with Makoto. I heard the sound of laughter and chatter nearby. I looked up and saw Willow approaching towards me. Her pale blue short-sleeved shirt emphasized her elegant torso, hem dropping naturally, and her waist completely hiding the top border of her elastic shorts. As she walked, the hem of her shirt fluttered and her shorts appeared periodically, following the outline of her strong, well-toned legs, making it impossible to look away. She was too brilliant and was the object of many boys' secret loves. She glowed brightly, and as she took a few feet, she looked up and spotted me. Willow slowed her pace. Then she clumsily averted her look away and started talking to her best friend next to her. Seeing her response, I sighed. It appeared like those bullet comments were true. One comment wrote, "If I were the male supporting character, I'd absolutely remain far away from the female protagonist and not make a fool of myself." Another one added, "Yeah, the male and female leads are a fantastic combination, but the supporting character persists on butting in, isn't it?" Nasty one more added, "The female lead doesn't even want to look at him." Willow didn't glance at me. She was glancing at her phone, evidently replying to someone's message. A smile inadvertently appeared on her face. It must have been the male lead Makoto, whom she just recruited as a buddy. Just as she was going to walk past, May reached out and stopped her. In her shocked stare, I grinned and asked, "Are you Willow?" The bullet comments started to roll in like crazy. They were all cursing me. I ignored them and kept my concentration on Willow, continuing as, "Anna, your roommate. Do you know where she is right now?" Willow hesitated for a moment. She furrowed her brows and whispered, "What do you need her for?" I shook the flowers and love letter in my fingers and answered, "I've got something to give her." Chapter 2. Willow didn't say anything, but her best friend Will was standing by, and witnessing the situation walked over and said, "Anna, you're looking for Hirsch's at the tennis court next door." I said, "Oh, okay, thanks." With that, he took the love letter and proceeded for the tennis court. I could hear voices behind me. Though they were supposed to be whispers, they weren't quite quiet. I could hear them clearly. One person remarked, "He's crazy. I truly likes Anna." "Yeah, Anna is so eerie. How could anyone like her?" Another person wrote, "Anna is gorgeous though. Even though she's a yander, men care about appearance. It's not shocking if someone likes her." Someone else said, "Hey Willow, why aren't you saying anything?" Another voice chimed in, "Willow, what are you doing? Aren't you going to eat?" I heard frantic footsteps behind me. Before long, someone stood in front of me. I froze and asked classmate Willow, "Is there something else?" Willow frowned as she stared at me, and then glanced at the love letter and my fingers. She seemed to grasp what she was doing. She uncomfortably ran a hand through her hair. She bit her lip and whispered, "It's nothing." I just instantly remembered that Tana has a bit of a peculiar temper. You don't know her well, and if you go to locate her now, she might get angry. How about I offer this to her for you? The bullet comments began to heat up. One remark said, "What's going on? Is the male supporting character playing hard to get?" Another comment read, "Scared me. I believe the female main actually had affections for this ordinary supporting character. Now it's evident she's just being kind." There was another comment, "Honestly, the female lead is so vulnerable. She was so miserable last year she almost gave up. And if it weren't for the male supporting character reassuring or tolerating her wholeheartedly, how could she have become better so rapidly? If I were the female lead, I'd definitely be moved by him." I got a bit lost in thought as I read the comments. They were alluding to the volleyball match from last autumn, which was incredibly crucial to Willow. But Willow screwed up at the important round. That match was lost. Everyone tried to console her, but she could still feel the silent sighs from her comrade as overwhelmed with terrible pain and guilt. She hid away by herself. At that time I sent messages and gifts, yet not only did she not appreciate it, but lashed out furiously and said many unpleasant remarks. I wasn't upset. In the end, I just recorded a song for her purposefully off-key. Less than 5 minutes. After I sent it, said angrily, "Stop singing, you're making me so disgusted that my remaining food is ready to come up." Her tone was grumbling, but there was a touch of a smirk she couldn't disguise. That night I remained up chatting with her, and gradually I managed to help her feel better. A bullet comment said the male supporting character stole the male lead's attention. Willow could never fall for him. She's always just preferred the male lead. Another comment said exactly she only added the male supporting character since she believed it was Makoto adding her, otherwise would have never made it onto her list. That's probably accurate. I shook my head at Willow and said, "It's okay, I know Anna pretty well." Willow froze for a moment and said, "How is that?" Possibly shrugged carelessly and added, "Actually, I've known her for 3 years, but we've only ever communicated online. We've never met in person." Then I felt a bit ashamed and added, "With graduation coming up, I thought I'd go meet her in person and confess, giving myself a chance." A bullet comment said, "What's going on? Did the male supporting character also misjudge the person perfect? Now the male supporting character will go after Thatness, the female antagonist, and quit harassing the female lead." Another comment said, "But the female lead's expression doesn't seem quite right." Willow stood in front of me frowning, looking like she wanted to say something, but couldn't, and it seemed a bit funny. I peered past her and saw Anna approaching, my face relaxing. "I say to see her now, Willow, we'll talk later," Willow yelled. "Out are you?" Mistakini froze and asked, mistaken about what. Willow bit her lip and replied, "Didn't you say you've never met her? How can you be so sure the person in front of you is Anna?" I couldn't help but laugh. I said, "If it's not her, could it be you?" Willow immediately denied it without thinking. She shook her head and said, "It's not me." I looked at her steadily for a moment. Willow scarcely dared to meet my gaze. I nodded and said, "So Willow, you don't need to worry about it." With that, I quickly walked around her and ran toward the crowd, leaving the tennis court. Willow instantly raised her hand, but stopped herself. Chapter 3. Anna was tall and striking, standing out in the crowd. She walked at the back, her long hair carelessly tied behind her. The hair on her forehead was moist, and she gently swept it behind her ear, showing her delicate and gorgeous face. However, her expression was icy, with a "don't come near me" sense. Apart from tennis practice, no one was eager to walk with her. I skillfully maneuvered past the crowd, heading against the flow, and halted just in front of Anna. At first she didn't notice me and almost bumped into me. When she finally noticed my face, she froze for a bit and said, "What's up?" I handed her the love letter and flowers and said, "I need to talk to you. I'm revealing my feelings." Anna gazed at the crumpled envelope and her pomp, then looked up at me. Actually, what I told Willow was true. I truly do know Anna quite well. Or at least that's how I see it. I have a habit of being too emotional and love delivering emotional value to others. Simply I want to give every sad girl in this world a home. So I don't simply have Willow as an online chat pal. Willow responds the most and begs for the most emotional support. She will let out her frustrations when she's upset and clutch to me for conversations before bed. In dramatic contrast, there's Anna. She's so aloof he could send her 10 texts and she wouldn't reply to a single one. But I don't mind because I genuinely enjoy her appearance. When her gaze met mine, I wasn't nervous. I said, "Let me introduce myself. I'm George from the statistics department next door. Anna, it's okay if you don't accept my confession, but how about we get to know each other offline?" First, Anna didn't pay much attention to me and just walked out with her tennis racket. I didn't mind joyfully heading to the cafeteria for a dinner. On the way, my phone beeped a couple times. It was a message from my game pal Badass Makoto. "Hero George, a few days ago you told you were visiting a therapist, and the doctor suggested you have a partner. How's it doing? Any progress?" I considered for a moment and said I already had someone in mind, but now I've decided to go for someone else. "What about you? Didn't you add your goddess on WeChat? How's it going?" Badass Makoto said. With some anger, "It's been okay. After adding her, I don't really feel like chatting anymore. Talking to you about gaming is more entertaining." Just then I watched the onslaught of bullet remarks began to scroll swiftly. It appeared like something had sparked them. One comment wrote, "Can anyone explain why the male supporter character is also buddies with the male lead?" Another one responded, "Male lead, what are you doing? Female lead is still waiting for you to reply to her. Why are you conversing with the supporting character?" The next remark replied, "Male supporting character, look behind you. That black yander girl is following you. How can you even speak to her?" Another person answered, "This is becoming messy. Let's wait for the drama to unfold." While I answered to Badass Makoto's message, I maintained an eye on the barrage. It seems like these comments weren't wholly pointless after all. It turns out Badass Makoto was the male led Makoto, and Anna was following me. I suddenly turned around and Anna froze. When she realized I had spotted her, she wasn't embarrassed at all. She walked over with a chilly expression, snorted, and brushed past me. Her mental fortitude was exceptional, absolutely not something an ordinary person could match. I clicked my tongue in wonder, but didn't mind turning around to head into the cafeteria. Today was a tad tiring. After washing up in the dorm, I felt drowsy right immediately. I said goodnight to each of my online partners, and when I started the conversation with Willow, I paused. "Oh, she doesn't require a reply." I was going to shut the program when I noticed the typing indication flickering on the chat pane. I waited for a bit, but nothing occurred. I was exhausted, so I turned off my phone and went to sleep. Chapter 4. When it comes to finding a girlfriend, I'm serious about it. The next day, was excited to go find Anna soon after class. Unfortunately, I came too early and the tennis court was still empty. After walking around for a time, I came back just as an altercation broke out. Coach, when I walked in, the ball machine was already damaged, and it appears like someone purposefully broke it. The coach asked who was the last one to depart yesterday night. The person replied it was Anna. She came back to the tennis court after dinner and didn't leave until closing time. The coach scattered, "You checked the security cameras?" She responded, "The cameras are broken. They haven't been fixed in a few days." As they were arguing, Anna went over. Everyone froze and glanced at her. The coach furrowed his brows and with an irritated tone asked Anna, "Did you break the ball machine?" Anna gazed at him and shook her head no. Her lackadaisical demeanor made the coach a little upset. He hurriedly said, "Don't deny what you've done. It's not a huge deal." The kids muttered among themselves. "It's probably her who did it. She still won't admit it." Is she terrified of paying for it? The barrage was also full of doubts about Anna. One remark said not being the protagonist for a purpose. This person has moral concerns. Did you notice the look in her eyes? She did something wrong and is still demonstrating an attitude. Anna's face grew scarlet with fury. Her gaze rested on someone in the crowd and she bitterly scoffed before taking out her phone from her bag. She promptly got out a video and showed it to the coach. The footage showed an empty tennis court with a girl in the corner, visibly kicking the ball machine in despair. The image flashed by and suddenly the camera flipped, exposing a close-up of a familiar face. The person said, "Oana, haven't you made it to the tennis court yet? When are you coming? I've been waiting here for ages." The familiar voice, the familiar face. Everyone turned to look at me, who was standing at the back viewing the scene. Even with my thick skin, I couldn't stand their gaze. I uncomfortably smiled and said, "It's nothing, I just filmed it casually." But thankfully this video cleared Anna's name. The coach stepped over and questioned, "This kid, did you witness? Who ruined the public property?" I pointed at someone in the crowd and replied, "It's her." It wasn't until Anna showed me the film that I remembered the situation. And I boldly pointed to the girl and said, "It's definitely her." The girl exploded, disputing it wildly. "It wasn't me," I smiled and said, "Don't lie. I heard. You kicked the machine," and cursed, asking why did they chose Anna to go to the Beijing competition. "You also said something about the coach having ulterior reasons." The coach's expression darkened as he turned to gaze at her, gritting his teeth and asking, "What did you say?" I didn't say anything. Oh, I feigned to take out my phone and stated I didn't, just record one video. "Let me look for it." The girl, terrified and with everyone's focus on her, she turned and fled away. Her reaction was an admission of guilt. The coach was quite frustrated. He shook his head and said, "Everyone disperse. Let's get back to training." I said, "Coach." I smiled and approached him. "Did you forget something?" The coach scowled. Wadi pointed to Anna, who was silently organizing her racket, and said, "You still haven't apologized to Anna. You just declared she was the one who shattered it in front of everyone. Don't you think you should apologize now?" Not far away, Anna's motions paused. She looked up at me. I was getting blasted with the coach's remarks. He fiercely shouted, "Who's this little brat? Get lost, don't interrupt our training." The coach was outraged, and a dead and I not involved, "Get out." He then stormed off. I shrugged and silently wiped my face. Anna almost subtly twisted her lips into a smile. I caught it. I said, "Are you laughing at me?" Anna returned to her usual frigid approach and answered, "No." I shifted the subject, "Suit yourself, but because I helped you today, it's only fair that you treat me to something right." Anna glanced at me and nodded, "Okay." A bullet remark stated, "Wait a second, why do I feel that their storyline is so lovely? This is bizarre. What's with the eye contact? Something's off. Let's watch and see." The next comment read, "I haven't even seen the male and female leads meet yet, and you two are already going on a date." Chapter 5. Sitting in a cafe off campus. I offered Anna her coffee and she pushed her lips together, saying, "Thank you." Her demeanor was frigid. I figured it out. She was probably just born this way, with very little expression on her face. I asked, "Do you play tennis every day?" She responded, "No." I arched an eyebrow and responded, "Well, when are you going next? I'll come watch." I inquired, "Where do you typically take classes? We might not be that far apart." I asked, "You don't seem to get along with your classmates. Do people get jealous because you're good looking and talented at tennis?" He asked. "Why are you talking?" I asked. "By the way, do you remember mine?" Amesh replied, "George, do you often talk this much?" I became silent and took a sip of my coffee. Anna moved her head to stare out the window, her expression chilly and distant. She looked like a mannequin. I was genuinely intrigued about her, had a lot of questions, and she didn't entirely ignore me. I asked 5 or 6 questions and she'd probably answer one. It was something at least. Just when I was getting into the chat, he immediately peered outside the window and paused mid-sentence. Across from the cafe was our school's west gate, where an ambulance was parked and a group of people was urgently moving someone across. The person they were carrying was someone I knew very well, Willow. When I got back to school, I didn't need to ask around to know what had happened. Willow, for some reason, has been very irritable these past couple of days. Today, throughout a game, she collided with a libero. In the heat of the moment, the two started arguing, and Willow was pushed into the surrounding stairs, shattering her leg. Breaking her leg was one thing. The issue was that they were supposed to symbolize our school in a volleyball competition next week in a nearby city. Now with Willow hurt, she couldn't go. A classmate of Willow's commented, She's been having some bad luck lately. Another replied it's her own fault. Mistakes like that happen all the time. She had to debate and fight with someone. Another student said she must be feeling quite horrible now. We're classmates, should we write her a note to comfort? Her one girl said we don't need to. She stated she informed me earlier that she had an internet boyfriend, someone who knows how to soothe and chat to her woe, provides full emotional support. We don't need to become engaged. Another female concurred true. After listening to them for a moment, I got up and left. Back in the dorm, I took a few minutes to clear my thinking, and then grabbed out my phone. I opened the chat with Willow. The barrage instantly started to mock and ridicule. One remark said, "What's the male supporting character doing? Is he trying to entangle the female lead against me?" Own person commented, "He's chasing after Anna while coming after Willow. This guy's disgusting." The next remark was, "Can the male supporting character just depart the female lead's injury? Is the perfect opportunity to develop the relationship between the leads." I frowned. So that's what was going on. And the instance naturally had to cooperate. So I went to Willow's profile, blocked, and deleted her. Chapter 6. Willow has been feeling pretty sad recently. It looked like the gods were working against wherever anything was going wrong, especially considering she ended up in the hospital yesterday. Looking at the cast on her leg, Willow took a few long breaths to hide her frustration. She aimlessly browsed through her phone while suddenly she received a message from Makoto. Badass Makoto inquired, "I heard you were in the hospital. What occurred? Is it serious?" Thinking about how Makoto cared for her, Willow grinned, feeling a little better. She typed a reply, "I accidentally damaged my leg. I'll be staying in the hospital for a few days." Makoto indeed comforted her. Willow felt his compassion and found herself talking more. She wrote he was going to attend to a competition next week. "So sad. Why did this happen? I couldn't sleep last night." He didn't fall asleep until 5 a.m. And suddenly I couldn't sleep anymore. It feels so unjust. She uttered a lot in bits and pieces. She had anticipated that Makoto would converse with her to soothe the frustration she was feeling, but she realized his replies were getting slower and slower, and the content of his communications became more and more contemptuous. Finally, their talk ended with Makoto's message, "Rest well, sip more hot water." Willow was much more upset now. She suddenly felt like Makoto wasn't as good as she had thought. Out of nowhere, she thought of George. If it were him, they would have probably had a terrific talk. George was always like that. He knew exactly how to cheer her up, but he also knew when to give her space. When conversing with him, she didn't have to worry about anything, and she always had fun. Although she had added him by mistake at first, imagining he was someone else, Willow now thought she didn't regret it that much. Sitting on her hospital bed, Willow's thoughts were racing. Maybe it was because the elderly lady in the adjacent bed was rambling in her sleep. Yet Willow was feeling restless and eager to talk to someone. Without thinking much, she clicked on her chat with George. She hesitantly typed, "Are you there?" The next second, a prominent red dot emerged. With the notification, "George the Invincible has turned on friend verification. You're not his friend yet." Willow suddenly clenched her phone tightly. Chapter 7. I nearly laughed out loud when I noticed the post Makoto just shared. Badass Makoto replied, "A man's path to strength begins with getting free from the illusion of female charm." Noticing I liked his post, he came over to chat with me. He wrote, "I've finally shaken off the goddess's spell." He then started talking about his situation with Willow, clearly still in disbelief. He said she's been treating me like an emotional trash can, always complaining, wallowing in self-pity, full of negativity. Why should I keep putting up with that? I taunted him a bit, and Makoto seemed to cheer up a bit. Then he abruptly asked, "I've been wondering, you're George from the statistics department, right?" I was shocked. "What, you figured it out?" Makoto chuckled. "Your username is very apparent." True enough. Only someone like Willow could mistake me for someone else. Makoto then remarked, "I heard you've been getting close to Anna. I'll tell you frankly." Acknowledged, "Yeah, I'm pursuing her. Lately I've been going to find Anna. Sometimes I'd bring her milk tea, other times I'd take shots of her. I didn't try to disguise it, and many people noticed." Makoto thought for a bit, then delicately said, "Maybe you might consider someone else." I was taken aback. Why Makoto hesitated even more. After a few seconds of silence, wrote me a message. I've heard rumors, and I'm just telling you what I've heard. Anna isn't mentally stable. Do you remember the misandrist and anti-child chants that surfaced throughout campus? The past couple of years her school has found several of these outrageous messages from last year to this year, but no one knew who put them up. They were always posted in regions with poor camera coverage, and the content was exceedingly upsetting. Things like fetal parasitism, abortion of male babies, tricking partners into undergoing vasectomies, extermination of males. Such harsh statements that made everybody who saw them cringe. The most absurd part was that she didn't even spare male animals. She had tortured a couple male cats on campus. I replied, I know about it, but what does this have to do with Anna Makoto? Answered, my junior saw her kill a cat in the garden as she was heading back from the library. I stared at the message astonished. I couldn't picture Anna being the kind of person. It didn't seem like her. I asked, are you sure it was her? Makoto responded, there's no concrete evidence. That night it was already dark, and my junior's roommate just noticed Anna standing in front of the dead cat. She didn't see her actually do it, but she's still a main suspect. You better not get too close to her. Makoto was just trying to warn me, and I didn't dispute with him. I nonchalantly responded and then exited the discussion. Just then I peered at the bombardment scrolling across the screen and froze. One comment wrote, although Anna is a yander, she's not an extreme combatant. I recall this storyline. Who was the woman? I kind of forget. Another person said Maria. Was it Maria Liu or Maria Lee? The next remark concurred, yeah, that's accurate. On the surface she's a model student, but deep down she's incredibly twisted. I couldn't suppress my joy. After washing up, I laid in bed carefully contemplating the facts I had learned from the barrage. It appeared that this barrage was genuinely useful, and the information they provided was already quite specific. The truth would soon come to light. I was overthinking, and I started getting restless. I casually searched for Anna's name on the school forum, and the post that popped up made my heart skip a beat. There were posts from boys who were drawn to her looks, trying to get information about her. The posts rapidly attracted replies. One person replied, dude, you definitely don't want to get involved with her. She's the one who put up all those radical messages around the school, and you still dare to go after her, not terrified of spending the rest of your life with your lower half unto Cheta said, hasn't someone like her been expelled yet? The reply came, no proof, but everyone knows it was her. There were many identical posts. My frown intensified and I started to feel stifled. I instantly closed my phone, but Anna's face flashed in my head. Suddenly I thought I understood why. She seemed so out of place. Why her expression was always so frigid. Because she had gotten so much malice. Originality was following Anna solely for her beauty because my condition necessitates it. But suddenly I felt a bit of sympathy for her. Maybe if I could identify the true perpetrator, Anna wouldn't be misunderstood by so many people anymore. Chapter 8. I started paying attention to the girl from the School of Life Sciences, Mariav, one who had been mentioned. After considerable investigation, I narrowed it down to one guy, a second-year student from the School of Life Science, Maria Lee. She was little, plump, with a round face and pointy chin, constantly wearing thin-framed spectacles, looked really ordinary. She was a top student with good marks, had no hobbies, and spent most of her time in the library. She was the kind of student the teachers loved, the type who remained out of trouble. I secretly observed Maria for a couple days and followed her around. Her routine was normal to regular. Classroom, cafeteria, library, dormitory, just for places in a straight line. But yesterday, when she passed by the flower bed outside the library, she abruptly paused and peeked inside, which seemed a little strange. Today I was planned to follow her again, but just as I was heading to the library, was unexpectedly halted by someone. Willow, who had just gotten out of the hospital and still had a cast on her leg. I quickly controlled myself and asked, what's up? Willow looked unhappy, her brow furrowed. She replied, why are you always following that individual? I gazed at her in disbelief. Willow pointed toward the library across from us and stated, my dorm is over there. I can see everything from my balcony. I raised an eyebrow. I see. I was a bit bewildered by Willow's inquiry and said, "What's it to you?" Willow hesitated for a moment, her face turning increasingly black. I couldn't be bothered to dispute with her and tried to walk past her toward the library, but she grabbed my sleeve. She looked at me and remarked in a disgruntled tone, "Georgia, did you deactivate me as a friend?" I caught her gaze and nodded. "Yes." I feigned realization. "Oh, so you knew it was me, yeah." I continued, "But didn't you add the wrong person? In the first place, you added each other due of a misunderstanding. Now we're removing each other, it's just putting everything back in order." Willow furrowed her brows. "What do you mean by that?" I groaned and answered honestly, "I added you by mistake too. I assumed you were Anna. When I realized my error, I wanted to delete you, but you kept messaging me every day. I didn't want things to be awkward, so I kept you on my list. But Willow, you know what, talking to you is actually sort of annoying." Willow's lips quivered with rage. The barrage started commenting. One remark read, "That's some brutal honesty." Another one said, "Does the male supporting character really have to be so cruel? The female lead doesn't even like him." Another comment read, "I genuinely think the male supporting character didn't do anything wrong. The female lead ignored him firsthand. If both parties made a mistake, deleting each other is the most decent way to resolve it." Oh, after reading so many comments, it's unusual to see one that makes sense. I felt a little moved. Willow was still tightly grasping my sleeve. I became impatient and roughly shook her off. But I forgot that Willow only had one functional limb right now and she was still using crutches. She lost her equilibrium and nearly fell backward. I jumped in surprise. Just as I was ready to grasp her, I noticed a hand stretch out and steady her. It was Anna. Anna didn't act like she was doing something good. She released Willow and turned to me, asking, "Got a minute?" I gazed in amazement, then nodded. She replied, "Want to grab a dinner?" I immediately smiled and said, "Sure, do you like spicy food or not?" But see, know a place that's pretty nice. Willow stood by silently, feeling invisible. She felt even more uncomfortable in front of Anna. She didn't say a thing and just turned to leave. After walking a few steps, she stopped, turned back to look at Anand, then at me. With an uncertain look on her face, she snorted and remarked, "Anna, so you like this kind of scoundrel who plays numerous sides, see, making up rumors and spreading slander." Neither Anna nor I reacted. We just watched her. She must have recognized she'd gone too far. Her face went red as she shuffled away. After Willow departed, I finally comprehended. They were housemates. If Willow had noticed me hanging around at the library these past few days, Anna must have noticed too. She probably didn't misunderstand anything, right? Just as I was going to find a way to explain myself, I heard Anna say, "Let's go, let's grab a bite." Chapter 9. This modest eatery had only just established recently. The taste and the decor were both pretty excellent, although the site was a bit out of the way, so there weren't many people. After eating and drinking to my fill, leaned back in my chair and let out a long sigh. Anna also put down her chopsticks. She looked at me and asked, "George, what do you think about Maria?" I was astonished and instantly explained, "No way," absolutely not. I don't have any romantic interest in her." Anna blinked in surprise and couldn't help but laugh. She said, "That's not what I meant." I scratched my head and responded, "It doesn't matter what you meant. Let me explain first. After all, I'm still pursuing you." Anna looked away, her ears suddenly turning a little red. I blinked in amazement. Why is she blushing? I didn't say anything at all. Maybe to lessen the discomfort, Anna altered the topic. She stated about Maria, "You shouldn't get too close to her. She might not be fully normal." I opened my eyes and shouted out, "You know about her abusing cats?" Anna pinched her brows. "How do you know about that?" She met my gaze, fell silent for a bit, then replied, "I've been investigating her for a while and I eventually established it was her." Watching her expression, I hesitated before asking, "Anna, can you answer me one question?" She responded. "What?" I said. "Someone stated they spotted you doing something awful to a cat in the garden." What actually transpired? Anna kept silent for quite a period. Just as I began to doubt if I had been defrauded, I heard her remark, "That night I was returning back from off campus and When I passed by the garden, I heard a cat's mournful scream. It was short and then it stopped. I even wondered if I had heard wrong. I followed the noises and found a little cow-pattern cat only around 2 or 3 months old. She bit her lip and continually squatted down to try to preserve it, but then a girl showed there and screamed. Before fleeing away, you know the rest of the tale. I groaned and said, "Didn't you try to explain?" She replied, "It's useless." Anna's voice was calm as she said, "Just like how they couldn't uncover evidence that I did it, I also have no proof that I didn't. In instances like this, most individuals end up trusting the rumors as the fact." She stopped before continuing. "What about y'all? Do you know it wasn't me you even investigated, Maria?" I glanced at her and said, "Because I believe you. You're not the kind of guy." As for Maria, it's only a supposition, a misunderstanding, an unintended mistake. I explained. Vaguely. Anna evidently wasn't easily duped. She furrowed her brows and inquired, "Do you trust me?" I grinned and asked, "Don't you know that I added you on WeChat?" Anna froze. I paused for a moment and answered, "It was at the start of our freshman year. I noticed you feeding kittens under a tree and that scene really touched me. I inquired several individuals before I could get your contact data. Any are hard to add. I attempted 5 or 6 times before finally getting onto your friend list. So of course I know it wasn't." Yujana stared at me stunned. Her cheeks became red again. I repressed my laughs, observing her with great fascination. Looks like Anna is actually fairly innocent. Chapter 10. Maria hasn't been acting right these past few days. She has been coming out of the library later and later, and instead of heading directly back to her dorm, she has been strolling around the campus. While walking, Lady often seems to be paying attention to the locations of the security cameras, either purposefully or unintentionally. Anna told me that there was a tabby cat on campus that recently had a litter of kittens. Maria might be preparing something. At 11 p.m. on Monday, Maria left the dorm. She took a route she had tested several times before, and when she passed by the library's flower garden, she used a cat teaser to effortlessly catch a little male kitten. She slipped the kitten into her backpack, skirted the cameras, and made her way to a secret abandoned equipment area beside the sports field. Maria was a little excited. It had been over a month since she had allowed herself to relax. The school had begun clamping down harder, therefore she had to be more cautious. Maria's hands trembled slightly as her fingertips delicately caressed over the kitten's velvety fur. She muttered, "Be good. Don't be scared." She murmured quietly, but her lips curled into a nasty grin. The kitten in her backpack let out a tiny squeak, its claws pathetically scratching at the cloth, unable to escape. Maria's heartbeat increased, and her breathing grew shallow. Having come to despise her parents for their bias towards guys, she liked the feeling of retaliation. She said, "It'll stop hurting soon." She lovingly reassured the kitten, going into her pocket for a small rope which she deftly wrapped around her fingers. But just then, bang, the door to the equipment room was kicked open. Before Maria could react, a shadow rushed in and kicked her to the ground. "Ah!" she shouted in pain as the back of her head slammed the ground hard, her vision getting dark. Her backpack was torn open and the kitten was swiftly stolen away. Maria struggled to lift her head and noticed the person who had entered. I glared coldly at Maria, one hand firmly holding her down while the other brought out my phone, its screen showing the recording interface. Anna stood alongside me holding the kitten. Maria's cheeks turned pale suddenly. She bit her lip and muttered, You two have been following me." Her voice wavered and then she screamed wildly. "Let go of me!" Help someone. In the next second, a slap rang out as Anna struck her across the face. Maria's scream stopped abruptly as blood gushed from her nostrils. Anna responded, "Shut up." Her voice was chilly. "Everything you've done, I'm going to make sure everyone knows who did it." Maria shivered all over and terror finally appeared in her eyes. She said, "No, you can't." Her voice shook. I had no intention of spending further words with her. I dialed the school security office with one hand. Maria completely panicked, fighting to escape, but I held her down tightly. She screamed wildly, "Anna, go to hell. You think this will cleanse? You're to me, it's worthless. People will still despise you. No one will like you. I tightened my grasp and demanded who said that. I answered I like her just fine. Anna smirked and softly patted the kitten's head. The security guard hurried over and soon students from the region gathered, enticed by the uproar. Before shortly, Maria was surrounded. Inside the abandoned equipment area, they found various alarming items and bloodstains left by the kitten. Many people were enraged, some even stepping up to attack her. The security guards initially tried to interfere, but there were too many people, and they couldn't stop it. When Maria's counselor came, Maria was kneeling on the ground begging for compassion. Fearing that the incident would escalate, the counselor hurriedly escorted her away. But the tragedy nevertheless spread like wildfire online. Someone had filmed the scene and there was footage of the equipment room, offering indisputable evidence. Maria couldn't defend herself at all. The remarks online were all over the place. I found myself becoming dizzy from reading them. Many people were backing Anna, but there were still plenty of voices doubting her, accusing her of hating men. Anna didn't appear to care. She inclined her head and stated, I didn't do this to make everyone understand me. She pouted, I just think those poor kittens are so pitiful. I muttered, stop talking. I said genuinely, if you keep being this cute, I might actually fall for you. Anna was drinking water when she heard me. She choked at her face, going extremely red. She looked at me hopelessly and asked, George, are you always like this? I said, like what? She added, flirting, talking. Nonsense. I replied seriously, I only speak the truth, and it's not like I do this all the time. You're the only one I've ever said this to. Anna glanced at me for a few seconds before moving her attention. I looked up at the sky. The atmosphere got uneasy, yet there was a subtle tension. Above us, the bullet remarks flashed. One remark said, these two are so obvious they don't even know the difference between heaven and earth anymore. Just get together already. Watching the romance between the male and female leads next door is giving me heart problems. The male lead is fine, but the female lead, don't even get me started. The next comment replied, why not replace the female lead? Think Anna would be wonderful. Give it up. The female supporting character plainly isn't interested in the male protagonist. Didn't you see the way Anna looks at the male supporting role? She virtually seems like she's drooling. I was taken aback and turned to look. Anna was staring at me with passionate eyes. I clumsily rubbed my head and said, what are you looking at? She blinked and answered, I'm just thinking. I inquired suspiciously, what are you thinking about? She delicately tapped her cheek with her finger and whispered, I was thinking about when you gave me a love letter and I just tossed it in the dorm room. I need to go find it. Chapter 11. Maria was formally chastised by the school and handed a major demerit. Rumors from the School of Life Sciences stated she was going to take a year off. But I didn't think that even before she left, she would cause additional difficulty. She ran into me and Anna at the school gate while lugging her baggage. The bruise on her face from the slap she had gotten that night was still obvious. She glanced at Anna, but her eyes instantly turned to me. With a melancholy expression, she glanced at me and said, that night I thought your face looked familiar. Now I remember where I've seen you before. George, you've seen a psychologist, haven't you? She pointed at me, her expression mocking. As she replied, smelly man, disgusting. You're mentally ill yourself and you have the nerve to lecture me. It was just around sundown. The school gate was filled with people. Many of them paused to peek over. Most of the gazes on me were scrutinizing, some even unfriendly. I rubbed my palms together, retaining a straight expression, and asked, say that again, but Maria didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed her luggage and stepped into a neighboring taxi. However, her comment still affected me. Someone commented, this person has a mental illness, can't tell it all. What type of ailment does he have? Others commented, I don't know, but it's better to keep away from him. I snapped back to reality and felt Anna gently tap my arm. She inquired, are you okay? I shook my head and attempted a grin. I said, Nash said, I have a mental disorder. Are you terrified of me? At this moment, I was still in the mood to taunt her. She grinned and said, they say I hate men and want to have guys sterilized. But you still gave me a love letter. I clapped my hands and shouted, don't even mention it. We really are a match made in heaven. Although I stated thought he still felt uncomfortable within. After supper, I made an excuse about being tired and went back to my dorm. I didn't even want to glance at my phone. At that moment, the school forum was undoubtedly packed with exaggerated rumors about what had happened earlier at the school entrance. I buried my head in my pillow, and before long he fell asleep. When I woke up, it was already dark. I hadn't expected to sleep for so long. I sat up feeling a bit dazed. My housemates had returned by then. When they saw me, they laughed. "George, what have you been doing? Come down, we bought some watermelon." Another roommate replied, "I sent you messages, but you didn't reply. Look, I brought you your favorite grilled chicken wings." Their attitude was warm, just like usual. I sighed with relief and got out of bed. Finally, I had the confidence to open my phone and viewed the post on the school forum. Sure enough, folks were talking about what had happened at the school entrance in the afternoon. But the comments were not what I had expected. One comment read, "Wong is such a lovely guy. Last semester I was failing my classes and almost went into melancholy. He stayed with me every day, speaking and helping me through it. At George the Invincible." Another one commented, "I'm a senior. During the most hectic phase of my grad school preparations, Wong sent me goodnight voice messages for the whole months." Another comment read exactly, "Someone's labeling George mentally ill. Do people actually trust what Maria says?" Suddenly recognizable IDs popped up in the comments section. Each one belonged to a girl I had once comforted. Someone also stated, "Last month he was upset after a breakup, and it was George who answered my phone call at 3 a.m. At George the Invincible. He's even patient with random underclassmen like me." Tears welled up in my eyes. It turned out that all those late-night voice greetings and consoling texts were well remembered by them. Suddenly a note from Makoto flashed up on my screen. "George, I've already cursed out that imbecile for you." Immediately, my phone was swamped with notifications. I shakily opened my social media and saw that Makoto had written an update. "At George the Invincible, this is my bro, I've got his back. Snapshot." The snapshot was of our chat history for the past 3 years. The most recent comment was from Anna. He's great." Those simple words gave a warmth to my heart. I hesitated for a moment while biting into a chicken wing, and one of my roommates said, "Is it spicy? Didn't put much chili spice in it?" Meanwhile, the bullet remarks were flashing on the screen. One remark said, "He's basically every woman's best friend, and even the male side character is super popular." Another comment stated, "Female lead, step aside, the male and female side characters are going to be together forever. Male lead, sorry I used to badmouth you." The next comment replied, "His name is George." Reading these comments, my mood brightened immensely. Suddenly my roommate remembered something and ran over to me. "Oh, I just saw Anna downstairs. Looks like she's waiting for someone." "Could she be waiting for you?" I froze for a second, hastily pulled out my phone to check. Anna had called me several times. I hurried to the balcony and gazed down. Sure enough, she was still there. Her thin body stood under the streetlight, lovely orange glow spreading over her hair and shoulders, almost like she was enveloped in a gentle halo. I felt my heart rush a little faster. Without a second thought, I turned and rushed downstairs. Chapter 12. Anna. As soon as I sprinted out of the dorm gate, I couldn't help but shout out to her. Anna turned her head and smiled softly, her eyes curling. "Why are you running so fast?" I was panting, barely able to catch my breath. "I was in a hurry to see you." Anna paused for a time, then took out a tissue to wipe the sweat from my forehead. She naturally withdrew her hand afterward. She bent her head slightly and asked, "Do you want to walk with me?" I said, "Sure." There were many individuals out for a stroll around campus that evening. Most of them were couples. In the setting, walking with Anna felt a little ambiguous. She broke the quiet, first speaking in a calm tone. What exactly was going on? With what Maria said, "George, I trust you, but I'm also worried about you. If you don't mind, can you tell me about it?" Her tone and demeanor told me she was sincere. I gently exhaled, looking down at the ground as I went. I answered, "Actually, I did go visit a psychologist, but it wasn't a mental ailment, merely some psychological troubles." I stepped on my own shadow as I proceeded forward slowly. I sighed and stated my parents have always had a poor relationship. Since I can remember, the house was filled with the sound of fighting. They always complained about each other, painting the other as the villain. Anna slowed her pace, strolling gently behind me. I added I was really worried they would divorce, so I tried hard to please them. I faked a faint grin and stated when they argued I'd tell jokes. When my mom sobbed, I'd wipe her tears, and when my dad slammed the door and Wade chased after him, the lamp stretched my shadow far. I glanced at the fuzzy image and moved on. Later I discovered that if I acted joyful enough, if I showed enough concern, they would make up temporarily. Slowly, it became a habit. I smiled bitterly. The doctor claimed it was a people-pleasing personality. I chuckled. It's kind of strange how on the surface I seem emotionally affluent, yet deep down I'm continuously anxious. We approached the man-made lake on campus, and Anna stopped turning to face me. It's not funny, she remarked, her voice quiet but serious. You're really brave. The moonlight mirrored on the surface of the lake, gleaming in her bright eyes. I had never seen her seem so gentle. The doctor said. I rubbed my head. He suggested I get a girlfriend and build a stable, intimate relationship, which might help with my condition. Anna's eyes brightened up. She blinked and replied, so that's why you suddenly gave me the love letter? I answered honestly. Not entirely. I answered, I do like you. Ever since I first saw you in freshman year, I've had a crush on you. She instantly took a step closer, shrinking the distance between us. So, her voice fell low as she inquired, what do you think of me? I said, what do you mean? She hesitated for a time, then continued, as your treatment subject. I couldn't help but giggle. Anna, are you offering yourself up? She nodded, her ears getting a little crimson. What do you think? Consider it. The willow branches beside the lake slowly moved in the night breeze, generating a pleasant rustling sound. I glanced into her serious eyes, smiled and nodding. No need to think about it. Don't you remember? I've always been pursuing you. I just couldn't tell her that the reason I hadn't picked her first was because she appeared too distant at first, but I kept that to myself. Anna's eyes brightened as if filled with starlight. I took her hand, our fingers connecting, and said clearly, I'll treat you well. Feeling the warmth of her fingers, I suddenly realized maybe the doctor was right. A meaningful friendship could actually heal a lot of grief. The bullet remarks were flying across the screen above us. They're holding hands. They're holding hands. I hereby declare this couple locked down. I swallowed the key. Who's the female lead? I don't know her. This is the real ship. I looked up at the colorful comments and couldn't help but giggle. Anna looked up at the television, bewildered, but didn't see anything. She inquired, what's going on? I smiled and gripped her hand, answering nothing. I just feel really lucky to have met you. Chapter 13. On graduation day, the sun was magnificent. I wore my cap and gown, and with Makoto we took our first photo together. After 3 years of knowing each other in front of the teaching facility, he leaned in and said, George, he began, I've blocked Willow. Why? I sketched. Aren't you? He said, I just don't think we're a good match. She's incredibly dramatic and talking to her is exhausting. Makoto groaned. Plus, I'm heading to Beijing and Willow wants to stay local. Our beliefs are radically different. There's no way I'd stay here for a woman. I need to focus on my work. Beijing, I understood something and asked, wait, does that mean? He nodded and pulled out his phone, showing me his offer letter. Look, I got a position as an editor at a publishing house. I was genuinely thrilled for him. The bullet comments were drifting above our heads. Makoto is such a real man. The female lead is crying in the bathroom. Makoto then remembered something and leaned in to ask, by the way, have you heard about Maria? I shook my head. He said she is completely insane. She actually tried to harm a baby in the neighborhood, but the parents saw in Tom and alerted the police. Otherwise, it could have been a disaster. Now she's been arrested and she's probably going to be jailed. I was both astonished and a little sad for her, but I didn't pity her. She had done so much wrong, it was only a matter of time until karma caught up with her. While I was talking with Makoto, a blast of laughing came from not far away. I turned to look and found Anna surrounded by numerous classmates shooting group shots. This was impossible just a few years ago. The so-called Yatorowo everyone used to avoid was now the center of attention. At the graduation ceremony, someone said, Anna, once you become a tennis star, we won't even have a chance to take photos with you. A younger pupil added with a smile. Anna smiled and shook her head, saying, no way. Her eyes went over the crowd and she spotted me easily. When our gazes met, my heart skipped a beat. Makoto laughed and nudged me. Go ahead. I stepped over and the mass of students began cheering. I automatically threw my arm around Anna's shoulder and gave the camera to a close classmate, smiling. Could you take a photo for us? The student taking the photo urged. Get closer. Yeah, precisely like that. At that moment, Anna abruptly stood on her tiptoes and tenderly kissed my right cheek. The shutter clicked almost instantly, capturing the moment. The crowd burst into cheers and applause. My face was scorching, but I couldn't stop smiling. The bullet remark swamped the screen. This is the perfect ending. The male side character has made his comeback. The following comment stated, there's no such thing as a side character. George is the hero of his own life. I grabbed Anna's hand as we walked off of the campus, surrounded by everyone's blessings. The sun beamed on us, sending our shadows long across the ground. Georgiana suddenly paused and looked at me earnestly. Thank you for choosing me. I shook my head. No, I should be the one thanking you. Thank you for showing me that true love is never earned with repeated pleasing and submitting. It's built on mutual effort, equality, and honesty.